Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of CLX Foundry Live. I'm going to be your host, builder, and technical expert today. My name is Paul Steffens. DJ and Zach are both out sick, so we're going to be doing a solo build. We got something kind of special for you guys today, but first we want to show our giveaway PC for this month. If you stick around in the chat, you're going to be seeing some codes for that coming out. There it is. We have our purple NV5. That is the first one we have ever done. Gorgeous looking PC, and we've only got a few more days left while that is live. So for the show today, typically what we do on here is we pick out a customer build and show you guys how we build that on stream. But I thought we'd do something a little different today since it's just me. We're going to be building one of our RTS systems. So this is coming from an order of 5. This one is going to get all built like normal, like we usually do. It'll get tested and then put into stock for someone to buy, and then it'll ship out the next day whenever they buy it. So we just kind of want to show you the process of how to do that and what goes into it. So starting out for the specs of the build, we've got a Ryzen 7 5700X for our processor. We've got a 120 CLX Quench cooler to cool that. And for our motherboard, we've got the ASRock A520M-AC. For our memory, we've got 2 sticks of Patriot Viper. This is 8 GB a stick. It's DDR4 3600 speed, comes in RGB. If you've watched the show, you've seen it before, it looks great. So a total of 16 gigs of memory in this. Then for our storage options, we've got a 2 terabyte M.2 NVMe drive from Team Group. I believe this is the first time we've used a Team Group drive, so we'll talk a little bit about that later. And for our video card, we've got an RTX 4060 Ti from Zotac. This is the dual fan model. Might be a first time for the show, but we might have done 1 or 2 of these before. And then for our power supply, we've got the GameDS 750 watt Kratos M1 80 Plus bronze. All that going inside of our Karnak Micro ATX tower. So yeah, we'll just get right into it, and I'll start getting this case opened up and prepped for everything else. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. I will do my best to get to them. Might be a little challenging today without DJ here to help field the questions, so we'll definitely miss him. Is he? DJ's here. Hey, what's up, DJ? I did my best intro that I could. Yep, we are going solo, Curse. My weekend was good. It was my oldest daughter's 5th birthday last week, so we did a lot of celebrating of that. It was a good time. So for case prep, like we usually do, I like to pull off all the panels of the case. Now sometimes I'll leave this front panel on, sometimes I'll take it off. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it on for now, and if we have to take it off a little bit later, we'll do that. So before I even get to my motherboard, I'm just getting in here and I'm getting rid of all these factory ties. Typically you're gonna have a hardware bag or a box of hardware. That's what you can see right here. Now we do have a whole bunch of screws extra here, so I'm going to use what we've got, but if you're building a PC, that's where your screws for motherboard, hard drives, everything is going to be with the case. Yeah, it's finally warming up here in Kansas. I think I wore a t-shirt outside yesterday, so that was great. Kids were out of the house playing with the neighbors. It was solid. Yeah, super happy. I'm ready for the summer, or at least just warmer weather. That was colder than what we usually get. I mean, we were sitting at 0 degrees for, felt like 2 weeks. What's the difference between a 4060 Ti and a 4070 Ti? Well, to state the obvious, it would be the 7 or the 6, but on a more serious note, the 4070 Ti is just a higher performing video card. It's just gonna perform better. It's in that next family up. All right, so I'm grabbing our motherboard. We're gonna start prepping this. So this is the ASRock A520M-AC. We use this board a lot here. It's a solid board for our AMD builds that are in the smaller cases. It does have onboard Wi-Fi, which is really nice. And it's just pretty much got all the slots that you need. M.2s, got an extra PCIe by 1 if you need that. And in goes our processor. You just want to make sure your arrows are in the right spot. Lock that down. Like I said, this is a Ryzen 7 5700X. It's an 8-core, 16-thread CPU. Got a base speed of 3.4 and it'll boost up to 4.6. So a pretty fast processor. Next thing I'm doing here is I'm getting our AIO ready to install. So typically with AMD boards, they come with these clips already on the board, and this is typically for a higher end air cooler. They have these clamps that kind of fit down on these little tabs. But with this AIO I'm using, we actually have screws that will replace these, and then we'll mount it there. Right? Yeah, that's right, Damon. It's the alternate universe. I don't ever get to build that much anymore. I mean, we did have the build down in Atlanta, which was really fun, down at the Intel booth. But seems like I've become more of a watcher than anything. So I've got our hardware out for our AIO bracket here. So like I said, this backplate that comes on this board comes already installed with those screws you saw earlier. So this is what we're going to use. This AIO that we're using comes with hardware that screws into this. You've got these kind of cylinder pieces, and then this will screw right into it like that. And that gives it the proper spacing so that our copper plate for our cooler is making good contact with the CPU. Could you fit a 4070 Super in this case? Yeah, depending on the model. There's definitely going to be some models of 4070 Super that are really large with giant coolers on them, but there's also going to be more of an average size ones. It will be a tight fit in this case, but it will fit. All right, I'm reading your question 20. Possibly odd question for this kind of stream. For mounting or having a computer present in a vehicle, would you recommend a mini PC or a smaller tower? You've got a VM to remote into, but you don't have much experience with mini PC performance. So really what you've got there, the biggest thing is just making sure it'll fit in whatever vehicle you're doing. You can go mini or MATX, you've got ITX or MATX. So both those are gonna be good options as long as they can fit. Even on ITX, which is the smallest form factor, the hardware you can put on them is, I mean, you can go nuts with it. So you're not really limited as far as performance goes. It's just the amount of money you wanna spend. You can get anything in the right size now. All right, so we've got our hardware mounted. Now our AIO is just gonna go on top here. We've already got thermal paste on the plate there. So once we get this in, I like to just get these little thumb screws started, and then I'll tighten them down in a cross pattern like we usually talk about. Do I prefer a full tower or a mid tower? Pretty much always go with a full tower for me. I've got room in my basement for it, and I think just the airflow you can get is a little bit better on the full tower, so that's why I like to do that. All right, so now we'll get this hardware tightened down. Now I'm using a drill here. I have this set on a very low torque setting. If you're gonna use power tools, make sure they're low. Nothing on a PC needs to be crazy tight or anything like that. All right, so we've got our cooler mounted. Now we need to plug it in. We've got a single 4-pin fan header here for this. So, you know, we could just plug it in like this, but I like to make it look neat. So I'm gonna see if I can wrap this around and get it plugged in. Now if you're gonna wrap your power cable for your AIO, you definitely wanna make sure that you've already got it tightened down first, because I've seen it before where we'll wrap the cable around here, and if the AIO isn't tightened down, this cable can actually get wedged in between the plate and the CPU itself, and then you'll run into all sorts of cooling issues there. So there is our CPU mounted and cooler installed. Next, we're gonna move to our M.2 drive. Like I said, this is a 2 terabyte from Team Group. What's up, Hashim? One day we'll get a shop tour going on. Not looking, you have plenty of room, but you're not looking to break the bank. Already have a portable power bank in the vehicle. So really, you can get just a solid mid-tier, you know, gaming rig. It sounds like, you know, if you're going to be off doing that stuff. You know, it's not like you're looking for the highest performance on a mobile rig. So you can just go Ryzen 5, Intel, Core i5, something like that. 4060 Ti would be a great option there. And that way, that when you go with that hardware, you're pretty much going to be able to make it fit into any space possible. So that's what I would recommend. And it's not going to require like a super high-end power supply or anything like that. Yep, Hashim, Zach, and DJ are both missing today, so it's only me. All right, so you can see I had to move my M.2 standoff over just one notch there, so that's what that was, and then we are gonna get that screwed down. These M.2 drives, if you're ever installing them, they go in at a 45-degree angle, which you can kind of see from this shot right here. This is how they go, and then you'll just push them down and put your screw in. Does a 4090 fit into an ITX? So most of the time that's going to be a no. However, there are some specialty ITX cases out there that are made to fit like a really large video card, so you definitely could find one if you wanted to. So actually, I'll put my memory in now. Actually, sorry, Jason, we'll go back to that overhead. So for our memory, we've got 2 sticks of Patriot Viper. Like I said, this is 2 sticks of 8 GB DDR4 3600 speed. This is going to look really great. I like the RGB on these memories. I've been using Patriot memory for a really long time now, actually. I think I remember even some DDR2 sticks back in the day. Hey, thanks. Appreciate that. So, just make sure we've got 2 slots for our memory on this motherboard, so we don't really have to think about where these are going. These are just definitely going to go in these 2 slots here. Make sure our notch is lined up correctly so we don't break anything. And then with memory, all you really got to do is push down on one side, push down on the other. Pretty easy to install. There we go. All right, so putting our motherboard off to the side for now, we're gonna go back to our chassis. Now you can see this case already has fans installed. We've got 3 fans in this build, and our 120 is gonna go back here. So I'm gonna take this fan off right now, and I'll put that on the radiator before we mount anything into the case. Appreciate the info. You're gonna do some overland traveling and wanted to make sure you are covered for both work and personal. Yeah, that's cool. You get all the pleasures of the outdoors, but then also get to have a gaming PC. That's the best of both worlds right there. Do you already have like a vehicle picked out that you're doing it, or did you do any like custom modding to a vehicle? I've got a small 2002 Nissan Frontier I bought not that long ago that is, you know, I'm trying to resist the urge to do a bunch of mods to it for that type of stuff. Was the case your kiddo has? Yeah, that's cool. It does have a lot of space in it for an M-ATX chassis. Obviously it's going to be smaller than an ATX, but the length of video cards you can get in here is pretty impressive. All right. Now that we've got our motherboard built all the way, fans on our AIO, now I'm going to move towards the case. Get all of our cables out of the way. Got our fan cables, our case cables, all that good stuff. You can see back here this green PCB. This is our fan controller. Now when we show you guys when we're using Aeolus fans in like a non-game DS case, that black box that we connect together, this is what's inside that black box. So it's the same thing, just looks a little different. All right, with this board, we actually have an I/O shield. It is not built in. So we're gonna get that out. These things can be very sharp, so be careful when you're handling one of these. I've definitely used these to cut open boxes back in the warehouse. So you wanna be careful with these. The other thing when you're installing an I/O shield is they got these little tabs on here, and typically they're gonna be covering up one of the ports. So you just wanna make sure you're bending that back. That way, after you get this installed and your board in, you still have access to that HDMI port or whatever, if it's a USB or network, whatever it is. And then putting these in, you just get them lined up and push them in. You'll hear a couple satisfying clicks, and that's about it. So now I'm looking at my standoffs. So with ATX on our standoffs, it's always standard. Now we might have like an EATX board that's a little different, but on these MATXs, this one right here will sometimes have to get moved down, or this one moved up. So on this chassis, this one is going to get moved up. So we're gonna do that now. And all this standoff is a 5mm hex head. So we've got these nice drivers, but if you don't have one of these, typically your hardware bag for your case is gonna come with something that you can use to get that in there. Now that we've got all of our standoffs in, put our motherboard in. And now when I'm putting this in, I'm basically making sure my antennas and my audio ports are lining up, because once those go into your I/O shield, everything else kind of falls into place. Thoughts on the new 4070 Super? So I saw my first 4070 Super today, but it was just in a box, not in a system yet. So I don't have anything to say really about it performance-wise yet, but hopefully next show we will. What's the difference between the RTX 4080 and the RTX 4080 Super? That is a good question. So really, just think of it as the 4080 Super is just a beefed up version of the 4080. Now that might have some more VRAM, I'm not exactly sure. I haven't seen those myself yet, but I'm gonna assume it has more VRAM. But on top of that, it's just gonna perform better than a 4080, but not as good as a 4080 Ti, which I don't know if the Ti's are out yet, but I'm sure that there will be one. I always found it kind of strange when they started releasing Super models, just because you've already usually got two versions of the card, like the regular and the Ti. So now we got three. So now that this board is installed, I'm gonna go ahead and bring the system up, and then I'll run my fan cable through the back here, and I'll get our radiator installed, and then I can move on to plugging in the other things. So I like with this, I like to get my fan cable coming out the back, and I use that to kind of pull this towards me. And then from here, we can get this mounted. So the first screw is always the hardest. And once we get one in, we can get our hand back. Oh, I might have got that first one in just a little too snug. There we go. There we go. Is this a custom build, or can you buy it from the site? So this is one of our RTS systems that you can buy. Now we haven't done one of these on the show before, but since this was going to be a little bit more relaxed stream, I wanted to do one of these so I can show you guys exactly how that works when you're buying an RTS, which stands for ready to ship. So on our website, you can configure a custom rig all yourself, or you can just pick one of our RTS systems that we have in stock. It'll ship really quick, and then you've already got the specs picked out and everything there. So that's what this is. So this is coming from, we're gonna build 5 of these. I'm just gonna do one for the show, and we'll do the rest later. But these, once they're done, they go through the same process as all of our custom builds, but then they get they get boxed up just like normal and then put in a stock. And then if you place an order for this machine, we would pull it from stock and ship it out to you same day or next day. We try to get them out same day, but it's usually 1 to 2 business days. We like to give ourselves a little cushion there just in case there's any, maybe we missed the UPS pickup or FedEx pickup or something like that. All right, so now that we've got our fans plugged in, or our fans installed, this is our fan wire. I need to take this back to the fan controller. So I'm gonna run it this way around, and I'll manage this cable up a little neater once we get into this part. But this is just gonna go back into the box here, like that, and then you can see if we wanted to add more fans to this build, you know, we have the option to do that as well. So that's plugged in. Now I'm going to move on to our case cables. So this is going to be our USB 3.0 on the top. We've got 2 2.0s, headset mic, power button, LED, audio, all that good stuff. So that's what I'm working on next. We'll go ahead and start with our audio because this one goes all the way down here. Then we'll do our 3.0. What's the most expensive PC that I've built? So probably upwards of 10K. We do see some PCs that get up there quite a bit. We built more expensive ones of those here, but for me personally, it's probably gonna be around a 10K build. And that's just someone maxing out everything, all their specs. And then on top of that, you know, going with a painted case or some sort of custom design on their case. But if you want to play around on our configurator on our website, you can do that and put together some pretty high dollar systems. Yeah, last week's build was up there too in price. I think that customer I think picked everything, maxed out everything that they could. So it was really cool to do that. I believe it was in an NV7 if I remember correctly. All right, so we've got our USB plugged in, our HD audio. Now we've got these tiny little front panel headers. So this is our power button, our hard disk light, if you had a hard drive and it was being used, and then obviously our power LED. So installing these, this is probably one of the harder things to plug in on a motherboard if you're not familiar with it. I'm going to get these in and then we'll go to overhead shot so I can show you all what's going on here. Now, I just have these memorized, but there is a special pin on each motherboard. Typically it's going to be in the bottom right, and it kind of looks like a USB header. But these are actually pinned to go in a certain way. On our power LED, we've got a positive and a negative, so we just want to make sure our positive is on the top left side. That way our light works when it should. And then our power button actually goes next to that. And then if you have a reset switch, that's where this will go in as well on the bottom right. But this one, we just have a HDD LED pin, which goes in the bottom left. So you can see that's there. Like I said, if you don't have that memorized, you can just Google motherboard front panel header, or it'll be in your motherboard manual as well. They typically are all standardized, but sometimes on some motherboards, they have like a bigger section of headers to fit more things. But at the end of the day, if you look at the pins, it's all gonna line up the same. All right, so we have all of our case cables plugged in, all of our fan cables plugged in. I'm gonna do a little bit of cable management now, just to kind of prepare for the power supply going in. So that's where we'll start here. So I like to start up here at the top. We'll get a few zip ties and just go through and work our way down. I'll try to get to some of your all's questions right now. At what point do people start hitting diminishing returns, hardware / price wise, in my opinion? So, for my opinion, best bang for your buck is going to be going with like just mid-tier on CPU and GPU. Now that's like frames per, dollar spent. So video card, I always recommend like a 4060 or something like that, 4060 Ti if you want to go a little bit above and beyond. And then after that, and probably even after the 4070 is when you start seeing some diminishing returns. That being said, the higher end hardware is obviously going to run better than the mid-tier stuff. So you pay a little bit more, or you pay a lot more to get a little bit more performance, which I personally do. I like just having a solid run and build that I don't have to mess with. But, you know, that's all up to you. You really kind of hate those headers, Sasko? Yeah, they're a pain until you get used to them. And then even sometimes they're a pain after that. Hashim, you never missed a stream? Appreciate that. Thanks for being here. Well, you guys being here are the reason we can do this. So we really enjoy having y'all here and talking to you guys and asking your questions. All right, so I just did a couple zip ties right here to get this a little squared away. I'm gonna move on to my power supply now, and that's when we'll manage the rest of these once we get everything plugged in. So we'll get our case out of the way for the moment. Go to our power supply. So like I mentioned earlier, this is the GameDS Kratos M1. This is a 750 watt power supply. It is non-modular. So we're gonna have the cables all soldered in to the power supply. And typically your power supply is going to come with a couple cable ties. There's usually 4 screws in here to mount it and a power cable. So that power cable will go with our accessories. I'll probably use these hex head screws to mount it, but I don't like these ties that come with the power supply, so I just toss these. I like the ones we buy, some other thinner ones that are a little bit longer and just give you a little bit more flexibility on the tie up. Get the plastic off of this. I like to straighten out my cables a little bit too before just jumping right into throwing it in. I find that it makes my life a little bit easier, you know, when this is inside the system and the cables have already been straightened out, than trying to figure it out while I've got it inside. Oh, thanks, Sean. I appreciate that. Your motherboard just died last week, Prince? That's too bad. Sorry to hear that. I'm sorry if I'm behind on your questions, guys. I will get to as many as I can. Is there any room for more fans in that case, or is 3 the limit? So we do have room for more fans. We can fit 2 more in the top. And then let's say you wanted to add an extra one and we do like a push-pull on the 120. That's the way you could sneak another fan in there. But realistically, I'd just say 2 more fans in the top. So a total of 5 if you wanted to go that route. Can't wait for later in the year for better games to come out. Yeah, what are you looking forward to? You returned them, so you got the money back. That's good, as you should. So right here, I'm kind of working on both sides of the PC. I'm taking all my cables and I bunch them up and try to get them kind of as tight as I can. And then I poke them through this hole, and then I will nicely pull them through. And that's when we'll actually get our power supply in here. So I've already got those other case cables plugged in. So I'm running all my power supply cables under that, and just making sure that while I'm pulling these cables through, I'm not tugging on any of those that are already plugged into the motherboard. Path of Exile 2 and Pokemon, yeah. I'm a pretty big Pokemon fan. Now, I typically just play like Gen 1 and Gen 2. Never really got into the others, but I did play Scarlet and Violet, and I thought it was really cool. I thought they did the open world really well. I did run into a lot of bugs that I'm sure if you played that game, you ran into those bugs as well. So that was kind of frustrating, but I thought it was a good game overall. I thought it was a nice way that they changed up kind of the traditional way of playing. So hopefully that means we'll get an even better one next time. It seemed like a good starting point, I guess. Didn't think the finished product was amazing, but we'll see what they do going forward. All right, so we've got our power supply in there and our cables ran now. I'm gonna go ahead and put the screws in to hold our power supply in place, and then we'll start plugging everything in. Cable management in this case requires a little more oomph. Yeah, it does. Now luckily we build a ton of these, so I've kind of got it down to a science really. But anytime you get a smaller chassis, the cable management is going to be more challenging, especially on like those ITX builds. When you get high-end components in there, it can take some time. Yes, CLX is fully upgradable, so we don't have like all your parts that are going in these are name brand parts. You know, they're going to be compatible with stuff, just like if you were to, you know, buy them off wherever and build them yourself. We don't have like those weird proprietary green motherboards or, you know, anything like that. And we encourage you to upgrade your PC, you know, if you want to. And if you buy one of our machines and you end up wanting to upgrade it later down the road, our support team will help you out with that, even if you're not buying the parts from us. So, all right, so we've got all of our power supply cables. I am looking for our CPU pin because I like to start with their CPU 8 pin. So we've got that right here. We're gonna throw this in the top and get it plugged in. Shadow Weave. Are you a WoW player? Shadow Weave? That sounds like my Shadow Priest. Thank you for showing us how you build a PC. I've never built one, but would love to, and this is making me feel more comfortable with the idea. Yeah, it can be really intimidating to get into building a PC, you know, for the first time, but realistically, there's only a certain way to plug in everything. You shouldn't have to force anything in. So even these power supply cables that I'm about to do, and we'll show you these in just a second at this overhead, because this can be kind of a tight spot. So this is our 8-pin CPU power. Now on your power supply, this is gonna look similar to the 6+2 8-pin for your video card. But the biggest difference is this obviously splits. This is a 4+4 because the cable splits into 2 sections of 4 different pins. And the 6+2 is a 6 and a 2. So if you're ever curious, you know, you can look in the middle of them and see if that splits apart. And then, you know, you just grab what you need and plug it in. This motherboard just has a 4-pin header, which is kind of rare. It might be kind of surprising to some of y'all, but it's definitely enough for this board. What's your favorite tune in WoW and why isn't it a Fury Warrior? So I'm typically a caster. I mained a lock in Classic and Season of Mastery. However, for SOD, I rolled an Orc Warrior, and that's been my main. I'm fully bissed out, and I love it. I'm proud I'm the main tank for our guild, so I've been really digging that. But with the level cap being 25, I managed to get 4 other characters up to 25. And like, I've got the Epic Cross, like my Hunter and my Warrior are just totally bissed out. Like, it's pretty. My Hunter got the Epic Crossbow in his first ever BFD run, so that was like extremely lucky and huge. And then my Warrior just been doing like every lockout, so it's pretty easy to get bissed on a Warrior in SOD right now. All right, so I got my 24-pin pulled through, and I'm plugging that in right now. Pretty easy one to plug in. You'll see a tab on the cable, and then you'll see a little lip on the connection. So that's what you're looking for. You push that down. It's a pretty soft click, but I heard it. Not sure if the mic picked it up, but it was there. That's what you're listening for. Yeah, Curse, I'm thinking I want to do some dual wielding, but I've got that Epic 2-hander, and so I'm just doing that, but I'm kind of itching to do some dual wielding come phase 2. So next week we're gonna be gaming all the time. Any more codes? I'm not sure. I'm sure we might get another one dropped in here. It'll be up to Mr. Ivory. If one orders from CLX, theoretically, who interfaces with the manufacturers regarding warranty issues? Your customer care team, or after a certain amount of time, would it be the buyer? So it's our customer care team. Now, if you had a separate thing, if you bought this, say, from Best Buy, Walmart, Newegg, something like that, and there's something separate, then obviously you would have to deal with them. But any issues, even then, just give us a call. We'll help you out. Our support team's great. They're all a bunch of gamers as well. They play the same things we all do, so they can definitely get you taken care of. All right, so I think moving on, we've got a couple other things to plug in, but I want to get to our video card next, and then I can start running the cables for that. So we're gonna move this a little out the way there and get to our 4060 Ti from Zotac. I don't know if we've got any other WoW Season of Discovery players in the chat, but hope y'all are excited for next week. Stefano over on the red side. This is a Karnak. This is a case that we do a lot of our MATX cases. We have a few different options for MATX, but this is one of the more popular ones. You tried getting into it over the weekend, don't think it's for me? That's fair, well, at least you tried. Wasn't sure if there was a sunsetting period, amount of time, or support. Yeah, no, I mean, if you buy a PC from us, you get lifetime tech support, a year warranty on parts and labor. If you buy a machine from us, you're like family. You're gonna, you know, we're gonna take care of you for as long as you want us to. All right. So, getting into our 4060 Ti. So this is a 4060 Ti. 16 gigabyte card. Now what I like about this card the most is really the size of it. So you can see it's definitely a 2-slot card, but it's relatively small, still got 2 fans. It's going to be a great performer, and it takes a single 8-pin to power it. So I love that I only need 1 cable to plug that in. And we'll get all the plastic off of this. It is, right? It's big things are coming in small packages now. They always perforate the plastic on these, and I don't understand why. Just makes it more frustrating. Just make it all one piece. All right, so we got our video card here. This is typically where we would talk about using an anti-sag bracket. Now with this card being this small, we're not gonna need one in this case. We're not gonna have to deal with any sag issues or anything like that. So that being said, when this system does ship, or when we box it up even, we will have Instapak foam material that goes inside of here, and it fills up all the spaces and supports the GPU while it's shipping. So now we need to take out our slot covers for this card to fit. So that's what I'm going to be working on now. And we're going to be going obviously in that slot right there. So we're going to pop this one out. These are the type that you just wiggle and they break off. Some of these covers are held in by a screw, and that way you could reinstall them if you needed to. So going back to our video card, you can see we're going to be using this PCIe slot right here. You can see it right underneath our M.2. So we want to make sure our tab's down, which it is. Then we're just going to slide this in. You guys might see the top of my head for a little bit. There we go. Now we've got it in. Now we're just listening for a click. There it is. And then we'll put our mounting screws in next. And all we got left to do is plug it in. Now someone mentioned Path of Exile too. We've actually got like half of our guildies are super into Path. So they're all gonna leave when that game comes out. Makes me sad. We got another question coming in from the Splash Print. Should the amount of fans in a PC determine what you should purchase? Because before my motherboard crashed, I was playing a game and the PC became very hot, smelled like a burning smoke. So that's a good question. So case fans, it's not like you need to go over the top or anything with. Honestly, if you have one in the front and one in the back, that's gonna perform fine. Obviously, if you can get more in there, that's better. But you know, just having a couple case fans is gonna keep it cool enough. If it's getting hotter and that's not enough cooling, you've probably got something else going wrong. So like if you were smelling like a burning smoke, you probably had a component that was shorting out, which is why it was getting so hot. All right, so we've got one more thing to plug in this video card here, so this might actually be a pretty good shot. Now this case is a little different because I don't have a hole to plug this in through, so I'm gonna come back through the front with this. You guys will probably see it coming out in a sec. Just wanna make sure I'm getting it in a good spot. Here we go. And then we're gonna plug this into our video card. And I'll tie up the second connection after that. And this cable is just going to kind of lay just neatly down in front of our other cables in front of the power supply. So this will go in. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the 6+2 8-pin. Oh, sorry, I'll get my arm out of the way there. And then just another click. There we go. And now our video card is plugged in. So right now, I could plug this PC in, and assuming I did everything right, it would turn on. I've got one last thing to plug in here, which is our SATA connection for our fan controllers. So unlike the traditional fans that usually have a 4-pin header, these all have a proprietary header for this fan controller here. And this will sync up with the case so we can use the buttons and the lights and all that good stuff. But that's all being controlled by one SATA power. So we've got a couple different SATA lines on this case. I'm gonna go ahead and use the one without Molex because we obviously aren't using any of the Molex. So I'll plug this in, and now we'll just start the cable management process. So first thing I'm gonna do, since this is a non-modular power supply, we've got these extra cables that aren't doing anything with. So I'm gonna bundle these up nice and neat. I like to make one bundle per cable. I think you could get away with doing them, like just grabbing them all and bundling them, but I like doing it this way and having a zip tie around them in case the customer, if they ever get this and they want to upgrade and they need a power connection, they don't have to cut one zip tie and all the cables will just kind of just come out of everywhere. They can just find the bundle they need, cut that one zip tie, and then the rest of their system is still tied up well. So you replace the 1650, and then the motherboard crashed. That's too bad. Yeah, 1650 doesn't require too much power. I wonder what else was going on, or maybe just got unlucky on the card there. Now what I'm gonna do is tuck these right in here. And I just like to do one bundle at a time. I start with my big power supply cables first, because I can get those more towards the front of the case, and then I can deal with these smaller cables, and that way they get a little bit of room at the back. LED buttons on top, amazing. Yeah, it's really nice. These GameDS fans and controllers, they have a ton of different options that you can go through, and then this also comes with a remote. So if you don't want to use the button on top, you can use the remote to control it as well. Pretty nice. So this will be our second video card power cable right here. So like I said, if the customer upgrades and needs a second cable for their video card, that's what this will be used for. And like I said, this is why I like to do one bundle per zip tie. Adds a little bit more time, but I think it's worth it. You're a completionist, worst possible trait for a game like OSRS? Yeah, I'm sure. I dabble in the OSRS a bit. I get super into it for like a month or two, and then I get burnt out. I know Ivory plays as well. My main thing in OSRS that I like to do is fishing and cooking. I don't know why, it just speaks to me. I've got like 40s on all skills and like 70s in fishing and cooking. I know when I first got back into it, I just made like this short goal of like, I'm gonna make 100 tuna potatoes, and just did that. It was a blast. All right, so now we've got everything plugged in. Now we're just gonna manage these cables a little bit cleaner, and we will be good to turn this thing on. Probably should have purchased a glass or a glass case PC instead of one. You couldn't see exactly what's going on. Yeah, that's what's nice with the glass, at least just glass on one side. Just let you look in there, and then like you said, if you smell smoke, you could see it. So there's a nice little pocket here at the back that we can tuck our CPU cable into and just make it look a little cleaner. You still have your old Cooler Master Tower. Nice, nice. This PC weighs like 15 pounds at most. Yeah, you could play basketball with this thing. You just need it to be a little bit more round. All right, so all this extra cable that I've got here, these are fan cables and front panel cables, and we're gonna grab our 24 pin as well, and we're just gonna make a nice line going straight down, and we'll be able to tuck the rest into the case. This is the part of the build where When I first started building, I got really overwhelmed just because it's so many cables and it's like, oh, I don't want to screw any of this up or pull them too tight. And so really, if you're putting together a PC for the first time or you're just still new at it, take your time with your cable management. Nothing to get too stressed out about. If anything gets unplugged, you can just plug it back in later. But I like to leave a little bit of slack in there, just so nothing comes unplugged. Yeah, the fan cables scare you, Mike. Yeah, the fan cables are always the ones because there's so many of them. Some fans even have like an RGB cable and a power cable. And so, you know, just 3 fans in your system, that's 6 cables. That's what I like with these RGB fans. And really, most brands have their own proprietary controller where you just have one cable, which is nice. And if you've been watching the show for a while, you've seen our, like the high-end Leon Lee fans and even Fantex fans that don't have any cables. They just plug into each other, so you can get a stack of 4 fans with just one cable, which is awesome. I'm excited to see that we're going that way because I think every company is just going to start doing that, hopefully. Make our lives a little easier. So Thursday, for the show on Thursday, hopefully DJ and Zach will be feeling better. And I'll probably be taking that one off because I'm going to Colorado on Thursday. I'm going to go skiing. I'm going to try to take it easy and not come back in a cast, hopefully. I'm not a daredevil anymore. We're just going to have fun. All right, now we're going to put a zip tie around this just to make it look a little nicer in the front. And then we can start tucking in all those cables in the back. What was that, Jason? I couldn't hear it. Oh yeah, yeah. If you're interested in the specs, we actually got a graphic built. We'll go ahead and put that up now. That way you all can see it. This is Ryzen 7 5700X for the processor, 4060 Ti, and you can see all the other goodies there. Yeah, hopefully get some sun. I hope so. I hope all the storms are over. It was like last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, was when that storms were really bad there. My buddy I'm going with was actually up there for that, and they were driving back and got stuck in a storm and had to like stay overnight in Denver. It's kind of crazy. So hopefully that's not the case. We're coming back on a Monday instead of a Sunday because the traffic's usually a little bit better if you leave on a Monday because everybody's trying to get out of the mountain on Sundays. So hopefully we won't run into any issues. I've only been to this place once before and we didn't have any issues that time. So all right, so we've got pretty much everything tied up there. How much is this PC? I don't have the actual price for you, but it is one of our RTSs on our website. It's the Set RTA 3700BM if you wanted to look it up. Maybe if you order one, you'll get this one right here. All right, so we got our tie up here. Like I said, we've got everything kind of routed this way. Obviously got our CPU, and then there's a couple cables here. I like to just leave in a line going straight down since this is the main power connection for our fan. I don't want that to get mixed up in anything else. I'm just gonna give this system kind of a real quick once over, make sure everything looks good on this side, which I believe it does, and we'll start getting panels put on. This thing actually came together really quick. When the fans come pre-installed, it's like 3 steps that you don't have to do, which is really nice. And yeah, actually, we're gonna go ahead. Typically with DJ and Zach here, we can go over our website a lot more in depth. So I can just talk about it a little bit here. So what you guys are seeing right now is our website at our RTS page. So this is where you can look at what we have in stock. You can order these and they ship fast. You know, we've got them separated out into different tiers. You can see the games over there on the left. You can select the games that you want to play, just to get an idea of what you're looking at. and go from there. So this, like I said, this is the set RTA 3700 BM, so it'll be in that list somewhere. If we're out of stock now, once I get this one done and the 4 others, you'll see 5 more put into stock. There you go. Thanks, Curse, for finding that. Appreciate it. What is the quality of life improvement you think more companies could or should make from a design perspective? Man, that's a good question. I don't really have a good answer for you on that. I mean, I think simplicity is key. As somewhat of a technician myself, I've always been, you know, into mechanic stuff, whether it's, you know, outside of computers or with computers. I think simplicity is key. As a computer builder, we love seeing the single power connector for our video card. You know, we don't need 4 8-pins to power it. It's great to have one. So, you know, if I could give you an answer, that would be, but I don't really got a good answer for that. All right, so we're gonna start putting these panels on. Now, typically with a case like this, that's more of the traditional design where we've got the fans in the front and the back and the power supply in the bottom. I will put this back panel case, or this back panel on. Here, I'll actually, yeah, this is a good shot, Jason. I'll show you guys from this side. Now, you shouldn't have to put a lot of pressure when you do this for this panel, but anytime you've got cables managed back there, sometimes I like to stick out on cases like this. So you can pretend like you're going on vacation, put a little bit of pressure and it should slide in. And then what we're looking for here is on the bottom where this connects. Yeah, you can't even see any gaps there. That's what you're looking for. If you did it incorrectly, you might see some gaps on those sides. So that's what we're looking for. No gaps there. And then we'll get our thumb screws in. And we'll get our glass panel. The glass panel is super easy to put on. It's on hinges, so it's really easy to open and close. That's one thing I really like about this chassis and most chassis now that are coming with a glass side panel, is it's usually on some pins that swivel. So we'll peel this plastic off, everybody's favorite part of the build. And I'll try to not get my dirty fingerprints all over it. I did have Taco Bell for lunch, so there might be a little bit of fire sauce inside this. And getting it on the hinges is always the fun part, because you look at the bottom one, like, oh, my bottom one's lined up, and then your top one isn't. There we go. Like I said, it does swivel open just like that. Now we do have some thumb screws that we put in right here just to hold it in place. But that's what's nice with these newer chassis, is that they're just making them so easy to just get in if you ever have to do anything. If you just want to hop in and reseat your RAM or do anything like that, it's not a whole bunch of screws or cables you got to work over, which I like. All right, so assuming I did everything correctly, this system should turn on. We're going to go ahead and make sure our shots are set up all right. And we should be good to go. All right, moment of truth time. How we looking, Jason? Looking good? Yeah. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh yes, there we go. Hey, I like that it's just on purple right now. I did not do that intentionally. So I could cycle through all the colors on this with the button on the case. Like I said, this does come with a remote. I'm not going to use the remote because every time I use it, it changes all of our lights in the back, but the purple looks really good in here. So Jason's going to go ahead and throw the specs up there for you guys one more time just to see what this is. But really appreciate you guys being here with me today. It was fun to kind of get to build one on my own. We still do have that giveaway going, so make sure you follow us on all the social medias. You can hop on our Discord. If you would like to chat with us there. The drawing is going to be soon, so the month is almost over and we'll be doing that giveaway. So like I said, appreciate you guys being here. Hope you all have a good rest of your week, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.